When somebody tells you to grow up, what does that mean? And how does that make you feel? And what it entails and how different it is to different people growing up. Hello, welcome to Sixth String Therapy. I'm DJ Mayday. And for the first time since we started this, it's going to be kind of strange to not do it with Professor S, but Professor S, due to personal reasons, he was not available. He's not going to be available for a little while. So on that note, decided to go to guests. And when I mean guests, I mean friends. So this is Jen.
Hi.
She's going to help walk us through today's subject. Today's subject is going to be growing up. What does that mean? When somebody tells you to grow up, what does that mean? And how does that make you feel? And what it entails and how different it is to different people growing up. So I'm just going to give a quick synopsis. I always like to get to the technical part of what growing up is. And according to Cambridge, or that they behave in a responsible way. Responsible way. So that's what Cambridge's definition of growing up is. What do you think it is, Jen?
Yeah, that responsibility is, yes, growing up. I would agree that it's responsibility, but it's also a few other things. And I guess that we're going to talk about these things today.
Yeah. I'm in the midst of raising children who are about to grow into adults. So I have a front row seat to a little bit. So it's very interesting to watch, children transition into being adults and facing that reality, right? It's like a reality. You want to go somewhere, you got to pay for it. You got to do it. And how do you get there? What do you do? So these are all things that I feel for me, always growing up was looking at my parents and they paid the bills, they made the decisions on what we were going to eat, where we were going to go, how we were going to live. So I always felt like that was being an adult.
For sure. My mom's favorite thing to say to us when we were kids is, if we wanted to go somewhere, I'm like, how are we going to get there? And she was like, the Heel and Toe Express. And I was like, oh, dang.
You got to walk.
You got to walk.
Yeah.
We were in the suburbs, and this was, you had to make sure you wanted to go to where you said you wanted to go.
Right.
If, because no one was driving you.
Yeah, so those are interesting. To me, this is the thing too. I literally recently would get into these debates with my kids. You got to grow up.
Mm-hmm. So what do you mean when you say to them?
Exactly. This is the conundrum, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm old, so I consider myself grown up, mm-hmm. right? So there's benchmarks for me. I think growing up is in paying your own bills, right?
Yes.
Paying your own bills, taking care of yourself first.
Yes.
And I always thought that as a kid, growing up meant that I always looked at growing up as me getting married, having a kid, getting a car, mm-hmm. right, maybe buying a house. Those are the things that are involved with growing up. And I don't know if that's it. I don't know if those are the benchmarks. And then to me, there's also emotional maturity, right?
I think those things that you just mentioned are a benchmark, but it's not the totality of all of the benchmarks.
Yeah, I've met complete immature jack-offs who've done all those things.
Me too.
So
I lived in the house with one of them.
Right, this is what I'm saying. So I don't.
Love you, Dad, but
Exactly.
you still, you know.
So is that? But that's what I'm saying. You can do all those things that I just named, and still be immature, not an adult, not grown up, still doing really wild shit. You could have all those things, and due to your immaturity, still, putting, your finances at risk, doing all kinds of things.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And not one or the other makes you immature or not mature, but it's just interesting that how us in the West, define adulthood or growing up. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes I don't want to get into too much detail, but, one of my kids will say, I do this and this and that. I'm grown. And I'm like, as she eats the food that I paid for, in the fridge. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but that's the extent of what she knows so far. And that was, in ways, we were also thinking that, even though we were from a different generation where, we probably wouldn't be able to get away with saying anything like that
Right.
to our parents.
No, I definitely would get knocked out. But I think, this is a different era. We don't hit our kids, right? We're not supposed to.
I would say you shouldn't,
It's interesting because I was watching this thing and it was saying that it was a teacher, or some kind of educator, and she was saying, we let the kid, I saw it on Instagram, we let the kid, we're scared to discipline the kid, and the teachers are scared to discipline the kid. The parents are scared of the kid. Administration's scared of the kid because we all cater to make that child comfortable.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Everyone's scared of the kid, but the kid is not scared of anyone.
Okay.
He doesn't see anything as a threat and anything as a problem.
I call that taxation without representation. That's what we're looking at. And if one of the things that we would learn to do, they did a grand thing when they took that discipline away from us, because when they made our parents afraid to discipline the children, then what happened? We found out that the teachers were afraid of the principals were scared of the superintendents was scared of the school board was scared of the parents were scared of the children, and the children ain't scared of nobody.
Okay, and I'm not well aware of this because, as you know, I do not have children. I never wanted children. I knew when I was 6 I didn't want them. So there's a lot of things that you bring up that I'm like, I have no idea what's going on.
In contrast, right? Like, so my benchmarks are absolutely not her benchmarks.
Yeah. And then the reason, there's multiple reasons I feel that way. And, the things I hear is like, I hate children, or that I am actually immature. But what I noticed growing up was, coming from my parents got divorced. I grew up in a single parent household. And bills were tight, I had to help my mom with bills. I had to, even, through college and beyond, I had to, once I left college, a week after my graduation, my mom was laid off from her job. And I had to come back home from New York, which was my dream, come back to New Jersey and knock out a mortgage and bills. And that wasn't, I was just like, so I had all these heavy responsibilities. Early. And I was, even though I already knew, like, I don't think I would want a family because of these large responsibilities. But even going forward, thinking about relationships, I was like, do I really want that? And I think that's something that takes time to really, you have to sit and think about, what do I actually want? Like, instead of the fantasy that I see on TV and in the movies and in magazines and, and it's like all these things are trying to sell me something. And I'm like, what actually are they trying to sell me?
A wedding dress, a catering hall, a wedding cake.
And these things are expensive. And I'm like, I would have to work 3 times as hard to get any of those things.
You might have to save 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and I just realized I'm not interested in any of those things. So,
Yeah, the contrast is crazy. I consider you one of the more emotionally mature people I know. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's wild. It's wild the benchmarks and the understanding. So like for me, I think the one thing that brings all aspects of maturity together, I feel like, is emotional maturity, right? What does that mean? That means responsibility for yourself, maybe compassion for others. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, like, those are the things that I kind of look for when I say mature, because I know a lot of cats that like toys and comic books and like play video games, and sometimes people would think that's immature. Like some kind of trait of being immature, but they pay their bills on time, they're emotionally considerate, they're well socialized. So I don't know. So for me, it always comes down to like that emotional maturity and consideration for others and knowing one's boundaries and protecting your energy. Like those are really for me all the things that being able to say no to people.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
That's always been a tough one for me.
I think that's a tough one for everyone. Like no one has mastered the art of saying no. I mean, maybe there are people out there who do that, but I've learned it. I've learned it to be able to say no to my kids, and they think I say no to them all the time. But even when I say no to them, I'm really saying, all right, prove it to me. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying, like if they want to do something, I say no. But if they're persistent and they show real genuine interest, maybe I'll, come around to it. But I can't say yes to everything that they want. You know what I mean? It's just not feasible.
Wouldn't imagine that.
You know what I mean? So, yeah. So like I think emotional maturity is my personal benchmark. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But there's different ways around the world. So I'm just gonna go through them real quick.
Yeah, please.
So I just, there's coming of age ceremonies that we do like all around the world. We have bar mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs and sweet 16s and quinceañeras and different little benchmark ceremonies to kind of let you know you've matured. That's always kind of weird to me because I feel like a 16-year-old girl, 15-year-old girl, 13-year-old boy.
Well, these traditions are kind of old,
right?
Maybe so. Maybe years ago.
But what was the benefit in telling a physically immature boy that he's a man now?
I don't know.
But what do you think? Speculate. Let's
speculate.
Throw. Just getting him ready because shit is about to change. Like.
I guess I guess the benchmark may have always been puberty. The first thing that we noticed about ourselves as humans that switches over. It's like, oh, this thing keeps happening, so let's acknowledge it. But maybe what do we call it? I don't know. That's me spitballing.
But I'm not sure. Sexual maturity.
Yeah, it might just be sexual maturity. Because when of course, when I was 13 and I had my period, that was like you're a woman. The language was you're a woman now. No, I'm not. I still don't understand math.
How does that work though? Like what? Like that's bananas to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but this is just the language I was hearing.
Right, but there's truth to that, right? Like back in the day, people used to marry 13-year-old girls.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like years ago, it was a lot different, and not too many 13, 14-year-olds getting married.
Nowadays, at least not that we know. But
yeah.
But do you think us living longer changes the dynamic and the time frame in which you can grow up?
Possibly.
They say, they always say like that 40 is the new 30 or 30 is the new 20. I don't know if that's true.
Maybe that's something that has more to do with us living longer.
Right, but do we move the goalpost back? I mean, it's not
forward.
Oh, forward, yeah. Did we move? Back to it, depending where you're. You know what I mean?
Right.
Did we? Are we giving ourselves like a? It's not that strange to hear of a 30-year-old man still living at home. I mean, it's not ideal, but we've heard of it.
Yes.
It's not completely off the rails to hear that.
No.
So. Are we pushing the goalpost back? Are we are we stagnating in maturity because of the way we are now? This I don't know. Some people call it soft or.
That's a tough one. Because there's no one thing that works for everybody in any case. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to say. Mm. So I guess it depends on the individual because if I could have left home at 16, I would have.
Really?
Yes. I was done with high school. I was just like, why am I here? I feel like I'm in jail. So, and I want to start an art career at this point.
Right.
So I don't know. I think it has to.
I think it's a little bit economical too, because I feel like back in the 60s or whatever, 70s, and even the 80s, you could move out on your own and pay for a basement apartment or $100 and then you could pay rent for, at the time, $100. You work at a regular job and you could pay rent and kind of live a little bit.
Yeah, for some, but
right.
Like, you know, you wouldn't want every 17-year-old moving out and doing that.
Well, no, but I guess the ones who were ready, I guess, mature enough to kind of do it, you know? I don't know. But I just feel like it's not as easy now. Like a high school can't just jump out on her own or his own and then like get a job at McDonald's and then, you know. But you could have done that back in the day, you know what I mean?
You could have, yeah.
You know, whereas now it's much different. You might have to get 7 roommates, you know what I mean?
Yeah, my mother and my father both let my father, I think, was 18, but my mom was 17, so, you know, she found a job in the city and took part-time classes at FIT, lived out in Queens by herself in a basement apartment. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know.
And she reminded me of these facts when I was a kid.
But can you even do that anymore? You know what I mean?
I would not want to be a very young person.
Trying to do that.
That now. I don't know how I would have. I would probably still be living at home with my mom if I had to do what I did in 1998 now. I'd be stuck there because I'd just be paying mortgage, you know.
Interesting. So what else? What else about maturity? What's the final? What can we say to kind of wrap it up? What does it mean to you? What is it like?
My maturity is
What does it mean to you? Yes.
I still get to tap into being a kid in my career.
How so?
For me, when I go home and work on my comics, my paintings, because during the day, I work in fashion. I put graphics on children's clothing. So at work, I'm in work mode because I'm in an office. I have to, commute a little bit to get there. But I'm in an office, I'm around everyone that's like, this is very serious. We're doing serious things.
Well, it's corporate, right?
We're not doing serious things. We're not. But that state of mind that I have to kind of act in this role while I'm there to, I am an adult, But when I get home, I put on music that I've listened to like as a little kid. Like last night I listened to, and this is really honest, but I was just like, I hope my neighbors don't hear. I listened to Disney's Christmas album from 1979 right after I listened to the theme from 3-2-1 Contact. So I could get into the headspace of like, I loved to draw all the time when I was a kid. And sometimes when I'm at work in those corporate spaces, I'm just like, it can become a drudgery if I'm not paying attention because I'm like, the art director wants this. But when I'm at home, that's my time. That's my time to go into that space of play. Like, I look for old school albums that I used to listen. My parents had these 45 records that I would play while I drew in my room. And I would put them on the record player, and I wouldn't put it on the 45. I would put it on 90 speed because I wanted them to sound like, I wanted Patty Drew to sound like the Chipmunks when she was, singing Tell 'Em. I love that. So, and I can't do it now because I don't have a record player, but it pulls me into that space. And even when I'm going to work, I have a special song for when I put on my socks or if I'm dressing up that day, because I hate to I'm a jeans and sneakers person all day long.
I hear that.
I would not have bought this shirt if I did not have to go to a corporate setting.
Right.
I'd be t-shirts and sneakers all day. So anytime I do actually dress up to go to work, I got a song for that. Because it's And,
do you feel like it's like do we change much? Do we really change much? Those same things that, 20 years ago, whatever, inspired you, it still inspires you.
Yes.
then that makes me feel like, you know, there wasn't a lot of change. Is there a correlation between like what you enjoyed when you were young and what you enjoy as an adult? You know what I mean?
Not much. Like all of that and maybe a glass of wine. Like not much has changed. Like I feel like I'm just a matured kid because I still pay all my bills on time. I still, you know, treat others with kindness and think about what I'm doing before I do it because, you know, my immature like things where I, you know, or I didn't think to do the kindest thing or the wisest thing when I was a kid. You know, of course, I'm all like a little bit more together with thoughtfulness than I was as a kid, but I'm still that same person.
That's so interesting. Like as you were talking, it was like for me, I think I don't get jealous anymore. Mm-hmm. I used to get jealous like a little kid. Like I used to be like, that's mine, whether it be with people or like food, you know, whatever. It was just like, I'm gonna be jealous, and I don't have that anymore. You know what I mean? I don't have that feeling anymore because I'm like, there's plenty to go around, and if this person or that person doesn't want to be with me, then there's nothing I can do about that. You know what I mean? Like so there's like a lot of things that, you know, with the experience you learn.
Right.
You know what I mean? Those are the lessons that are hard to kind of just tell someone and that they learn.
You can't be told.
It's so tough. You have to experience it. And it's painful to watch. Like I said, I have kids who are transitioning into kids to adults.
Right.
And, you know, I could tell them till I'm blue in the face, who cares what other people think?
Yeah, but it's not going to sink in the same. Because I remember being told, you don't want to grow up too fast. You got to work hard and you got to do this. And I'm like, I feel like I'm working hard now. And honestly, if I had to do, like high school feels longer than it was. Like looking back, I'm like, oh, it felt like that lasted a century and the past 30 years were like 5 years. So I feel like you can't, yes.
See, I enjoyed high
I've
school.
had a much better time as an adult than I have had as a kid. And so when
me too. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but you can't be told as a kid, like, you know, things will get better. And it's like you're just waiting.
Yeah, like you're like young love, like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, especially when I got my heart broken.
Oh yeah, that when you get your heart broken as a kid, it's like the entire world's gonna end.
The world fell apart.
Right, and you're like, no, it didn't. That was like your first or second relationship, you know what I mean? But it's just interesting how it's, you know, you got to go through those things, right? You know?
Yeah, to realize it's, you know what? You thought you were going to die, and look at you. You're still living. Still living.
And on that note, I guess that's the end of this episode of 6 Train Therapy. Thank you for listening. I'm DJ Mayday, and that's Jennifer. Peace.
Bye.
All right, that was good.